Good morning, boys and girls. Well, actually, it's evening, but time is quite relative, especially with me. Well, here we are again. It's been a very long time since I posted anything on Halloween Horror Nights history. The last one was way back in March 11th, when I did part 6 of Halloween Horror Nights history for Halloween Horror Nights 18, Reflections of Fear, back in the year 2008. And I realized I've been doing a little bit of teasing about things that may or may not be happening in the near future. People are now thinking that everything I say or do somehow is some sort of clue for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, they look at everything that I'm doing to try to think that there's a clue involved for something. I don't know why people would think that, but anyway, that's just sort of the thing. Anyway, I believe way back in March, it's June now, I've been running around Europe and doing all sorts of silly things and haven't been able to get back to this, and I'm going to do it now. I'll go back. I believe I had talked pretty much only about leading up into the event and the first house, Body Collectors, and I just started talking about the second house, Interstellar Terror. And I believe I left off on my last video saying that Interstellar Terror was inspired largely by this film on DVD. And oh, I'm sorry, I picked up the wrong DVD. This is not the right one at all. No, they haven't made this house yet. Anyway, this is, yes, it was Event Horizon was the film. It wasn't directly adapted from Event Horizon. They sometimes directly adapt movies. Usually that sort of thing goes on in Hollywood more often nowadays than before, although I've got a weird feeling that this is going to happen over here more often nowadays in the future for some unknown reasons. Anyway, but nevertheless, they used to sometimes make a house that was inspired by a motion picture concept, so that it wasn't a direct adaptation, but it was very obviously inspired by a certain movie. That way they don't have to pay anybody, you know what I mean? So Interstellar Terror had a lot of ideas that were similar to the notions in Event Horizon, although it wasn't Event Horizon the house, although it was. The house took place in the future aboard the spaceship, which I believe was called something like 1492 Columbus or something. It was. I'm really sorry that I don't remember the exact name of the spaceship, but it was connected to Christopher Columbus in a way, so into the year 1492, and the name and serial number. Someone can probably tell me exactly what it was and put it in comment and chide me for my lack of brain cells, but you know how it is when you get old. Anyway, but if I wasn't old, I couldn't remember all the way back to 1991 and the original Fright Nights, could I? Right. Anyway, so you enter the spaceship and something really bad has happened. Some strange force has influenced the crew members and made them go completely bananas. Yes, bananas being the operative word. Long before Despicable Me, bananas was used on this ship by no other person than J. Michael Roddy. A lot of you might not even know who J. Michael Roddy is nowadays, the younger fans, and he actually wouldn't mind if you don't know who he is, actually, now that he's moved on to better things. Tell people I'm dead. I actually heard him, he told somebody who told him, you know, a lot of new fans don't know who you are, and that was his response. I had to put that in there because it's funny. Anyway. Roddy, though, was the main guy running Halloween Horror Nights for many years, including 2008. And he put together, he put himself in this house by playing the ship's captain on video screens. Although when you saw the ship's captain, it didn't look like Roddy. Well, it may have once looked like Roddy, but it didn't look like anything anymore because it was dismembered. But on the screen, the captain's log starts out talking about the problem all serious, and eventually he goes completely insane. In one scene, he's like going, "Bananas! Bananas! Bananas!" I love that. That was just funny. And of course, if you knew who he was, it made it funnier. The general public didn't have no idea, but those of us, who are rabid fans, love that little cameo. You go through the house, and of course the crew members have gone insane and start doing crazy things and attacking you or committing suicide. One guy was like taking electric cables and electrocuting himself, and all sorts of mayhem and murder and bloodshed everywhere. And the captain in the bridge had been dismembered and left in his captain's chair, all torn up. And there were some really neat special effects in the house, like when you went through the, the vortex, which is used in a lot of different houses over the years, is put to very good effect here, because you were going through a star chamber. It was rather, and there was another scene where you're actually looking down, and they used the mirror effect they did in Dead. What was it? The Silence, the Mary Shaw movie, Dead Silence, Deathly Silence, Deadly Silence, whatever the hell it was called. Again, my memory's not working so well tonight. But in that house where they had the mirror effect, it made it look like you were way above, looking down way into the depths of the theater, where Shaw was lurking around. Of course, that was actually a mirror effect. You're actually only about a couple feet off that level, but the mirror made it look, because there was reflecting stuff above you. So when you look down, you look like you're looking into the vast, you had the feeling this little catwalk that's going across. You look over the edge, and it's just a vast emptiness of space going on forever and ever. And holy fuck. And there's like an astronaut floating, a guy floating, a crew member floating, lost in space body in this. It's like, holy crap. It really gave the illusion that you were really out in vast gulfs of the abyss. It was quite astounding, really. A really nifty effect. And of course, as you go through that, the whole second half of the spaceship is upside down. And if you look at the detail, you see the signs are upside down and everything. And of course, the crew members are even more crazy running around. And they had some neat effects where the floor would shake and move and ripple like this. The floor would actually ripple, and you knew the ship was coming apart. And there was one guy who was trying to get you to help him, and suddenly he gets blasted out into outer space in a really nifty effect where he gets shot out. And they really went all out with some really trippy special effects and really created the neat illusion of being in outer space. And finally, of course, you find out at the end what the evil force. It was some sort of alien space capsule or probe that had arrived and was taken aboard the ship, and it was sending out sorts of weird rays and vibrations and signals that were causing the members of the crew to go completely insane. And a little inside joke to those in the know. The probe was actually E.T.'s spaceship dressed up a little bit, and if you recognized it, it made it even more funny. Phone home, I drive you mad. So that was Event Horizon. A nifty little house. Of course, it was. Some people liked it. Some people just didn't get it or didn't enjoy it at all. I thought it was nifty. That was in the soundstage, sharing the soundstage, 23, I believe, or I'm off because they used different sound stages that year, and I had it all written out, some notes, and I don't know what the hell happened to my notes. It was months ago when I first started on Halloween Horror Nights 18, so I'm winging it now. Okay, well, the next house in soundstage would have been Creatures. That was the third soundstage house that year. Creatures was sort of a light-hearted comedy house in a way. And it was based on the old comic books from the 50s, like E.C. Comics, Tales from the Crypt, that sort of thing. And it had a sort of pulp science fiction horror movie from the 50s, the really low budget ones with big rubber suits, had that feel to it. But it all took place in a little hick redneck town. And when you went into the house, you had this little redneck bar. And you would go into the redneck bar, and the people in the, and you know, it's being attacked by aliens. Well, you go in from the outside first, and you can see a couple of signs, like a meteor has struck, and there's some tentacles coming up from underneath. But you go into the bar, and there's no aliens in there yet, but it's the rednecks who are working in the bar who are scary because you think they might just go nuts and kill you. One in particular, a certain character, had been character for many years. He's done an excellent job every time. He played one of the Jasons back in 2007, the year before. And this, what happened to my English accent? I can't have an English accent when I'm talking about a redneck bar, can I? Hell no. So here we are in this bar, and there is, his name is Brian, and he also uses the sobriquet of CD, that stands for Creatively Destructive, on various forums. If whenever he comes back to the forums and comes up again, you can meet him there. He's a very interesting fellow. Huge guy, about 6'4", 6'5", big guy, and so they always make him play the big hulking characters, and he usually is pretty damn scary. He's a damn good character. Hasn't been scare acting since he moved up to Georgia. We lost, it was our loss at Halloween Horror Nights. You know, one of the best characters I've ever seen. He played a redneck in that bar. It was a bartender or just sort of just hanging out, and just what made it effective was the wig. He went and got himself this mullet wig that looked like, you know, well, the sort of hairstyle that's only worn by hockey players today, but at one time was popular in the 1980s. Remember, you know, the achy breaky guy? You know, so you kids know about that, oh, whatever her name is, Hannah Montana. You know, Miley Cyrus. She has a dad named Billy Ray Cyrus. And before anyone ever knew who the fuck Miley Cyrus was, pardon my language there, Billy Ray Cyrus was once a big, huge star back in the early 90s. And he was a country western singer singing Achy Breaky Heart was his big hit number. And he wore a mullet, even when some people thought mullets were out of style, but he rocked that mullet. And so that was the kind of wig that was worn by CD in the bar, and it just made the character. In fact, the mullet was the real character. Had a great time just in that room itself. That, you know, the pool table and stuff. Also, there was a television set in the back of the bar, of course, you know. And every so often, Bloody Mary would appear on the screen, and making one of her cameo appearances that she would make frequently throughout the. Back in Interstellar Terror, there were video screens I told you about throughout the. She would pop up on those too occasionally. So she made her cameo appearances in various ways, but video screens was one of the ways she made cameo appearances throughout the event. Now, once you got past that and started going through the bar, of course, the aliens are attacking, and the rednecks have their shotguns, and they're trying to kill the aliens, and you find yourself kind of in between them. Shotgun blast going off. You know, this kind of stuff, you know, could happen to you because they're shooting at some tentacled creature, or they're tentacled, you know, grab them, pull them into the other room, and then boom, 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 and all sorts of gory, nasty set pieces from aliens that have torn people up, and people shooting at each other with shotguns. In the kitchen scene, there was one really neat character who flirted with everybody, male or female. And there was a room where I think they had a big skinned deer, because that was the sort of place it was. You know, the Buckshot Buck or something like that was the name of the place. Then, of course, you got in the back where the aliens actually were. Now, the big problem with this house was it didn't have enough aliens. The aliens are these big, huge, tentacled monstrosities, big tentacles and big eyes right in the middle, like something out of it came from outer space. But you didn't see them very well because the costumes were too big to fit through the little doors that go into that the characters used to go in and out of the house. And they couldn't get in and out of the house into the scenes that they wanted to use them in. And I'm running out of time, so you only saw them in a couple places. I'll have to continue the story of creatures on video number 8.